An MP says Turkey's application to join the European Union should be blocked unless the men who killed two Leeds United fans are brought to justice.
Fabian Hamilton has vowed to put pressure on the Turkish authorities who've repeatedly delayed the appeal hearings of four men found guilty of murdering Chris Loftus and Kevin Speight. Kate Hemingway reports.
They just started attacking the bar. You know, my brother ended up with something like 30 odd stab wounds, you know, Kevin the same.
Andy Loftus describes the night his brother Chris was murdered. It was the evening before Leeds United's UEFA Cup match against Galatasaray when violence broke out on the streets of Istanbul. Chris Loftus and Kevin Speight were stabbed to death by Ali Demir, who was convicted in 2002 along with three other men. All four have since been released pending their appeals. It means, though, that none of them are currently in prison. The Leeds MP Fabian Hamilton is now travelling out to Turkey to speak to the foreign minister there. He's also raising the case in Parliament to get the backing of MPs. His aim is to get the families justice 10 years on.
I think what is appalling here is that Turkey is applying for membership of the European Union, but it cannot be a member of the European Union unless it abides by the principles of membership of the European Union, which means a transparent, open and effective system of justice.
I don't think you can really move on until the actual trial is over in Turkey, you know. And Dad, I think they're suffering the most, obviously, you know. We've got kids, so we've got a distraction really, you know, but they're just living and breathing it every single day, you know. And I think the main thing for me is that we get some closure, you know, so they can move on and the rest of the family can move on.
For Randy, Elland Road is a place he can quietly reflect and remember his brother. He's hopeful, though, that this latest move will finally allow him and his family to get some justice.
Kate Hemingway reporting there.
Well, next tonight, another fight for justice, this time by the families of two Leeds United fans who were murdered in Turkey 10 years ago.
Yes, Kevin Speight and Christopher Loftus were stabbed to death in Istanbul before a UEFA Cup match in the year 2000. Now the family of one of the men say they've been handed yet another setback, this time from the British Foreign Office. Here's Fraser Maud.
Andy Loftus has fought for 10 years to see the men responsible for his brother's murder get the punishment they deserve. 10 years ago, amid violence on the streets of the Turkish capital Istanbul, Christopher Loftus and Kevin Speight were attacked and stabbed to death. It was the evening before Leeds United's UEFA Cup match against Galatasaray. 2 years later, Ali Demir was found guilty of murder and was jailed along with three other men. But all four have since been released pending their appeals. Now Andy Loftus has been told by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office that they are powerless to find out the result of those hearings.
I don't understand what the Foreign Office is there for. You know, surely they're there to help British citizens or UK citizens if they get in trouble in a foreign country. If they've no rights or they can't do anything, then what exactly do they do? I just don't understand.
But Leeds MP Fabian Hamilton thinks there may yet be hope for the family after what he called constructive talks with Turkey's new ambassador.
A hearing had taken place on the 3rd of June in the Beyoğlu district of Istanbul, at which the two convicted men had their appeals heard, but we don't know the outcome. It's 3 months ago now and nobody seems able to find out what actually happened. It's not been published, so we don't know. The ambassador promised to find out for me and let me know as quickly as possible.
For the families of the two men who died on that violent night in Istanbul, the end to 10 years of legal and diplomatic arguing can't come soon enough. Only then will they be able to properly move on and try to rebuild the lives that were so tragically shattered.
Fraser Maud reporting there.
Well, there's been a fresh attempt to get justice for two Leeds United fans murdered in Istanbul. Christopher Loftus and Kevin Speight died during the violence at the UEFA Cup in 2000. Now, three men were found guilty of the murders, but they've all been released pending appeals. Leeds North East MP Fabian Hamilton spoke to the new Turkish ambassador this morning to try and bring an end to the case.
Well, it went very well. I was impressed at how articulate he was and how concerned he was that this particular case is a running sore in Anglo-Turkish relations and something that he wants to see obviously put to bed, not just for the sake of the relationship between our two countries, but he was very concerned and expressed a lot of concern about the families of the victims.